This is Neha Kumari, and I am from IIT ISM, Dhanbad, India. So I'm here to present the disenfranchised tales of Revathi and Vidya, the Indian Hijras. Proceeding towards my next slide, I have chosen the autobiographies of A. Revathi and Living Smile Vidya. A. Revathi, The Truth About Me, and Living Smile Vidya, I Am Vidya. Why I chose this autobiographies is because Julia Swindles, in her text, The Uses of Autobiography, asserts that autobiography has the potential to be the text of oppressed and the culturally displaced, forging a right to speak both for and beyond the individual, via the assertion of personal voice, which speaks beyond itself. So autobiography might be the text of oppressed that also demonstrates an individual experience that represents the experience of a specific disadvantaged group. And here, the disadvantaged group is stated to be the Hijras of India. So autobiographical writings of transgender people describe similar experience of working through societal expectations and attributions around gender to find an identity that seems most congruent. In fact, J. Prosser also stated that autobiography has an imperative process where trajectories of transsexuality and autobiography are entwined in complex ways with narrative and bodily form conducting each other. The trans autobiographies also exemplifies their transformation, and also it serves as a platform to advocate their cause in culture. It proffers evolution to their identity as well as to the community. So I chose Vidya and Revathi autobiographies because they share similar struggles, such as lack of equal rights protection, discrimination, and harassment issues, lack of societal support and resources, and concerns about safety and visibility. So moving towards A. Revathi, I'll state that A. Revathi is an Indian trans writer and an activist. She is born as a boy named Doraisamy and she is from South India. She states, and she has written in her autobiography, The Truth About Me, a Hijra Life Story, in 2010, which narrates her experiences of being a Hijra who battled humiliation, discrimination, and violence, both inside and outside her house, in order to survive with respect. So, in order to be herself, Revathi has always tried to acquire feminine traits. For instance, she helped her mother in kitchen and dressed up in female clothes. Her parents believed that as she will mature, she will put this feminine traits to rest, but it was really impossible. So, however, with the passing time, Revathi was more perplexed with this her sexuality and her gender identity because she felt like a woman trapped in the wrong body. So here Revathi in her autobiography illustrates her experience of being a Hijra and working in the sex industry. Coming back to the next slide, Living Smile Vidya, I'll take up her autobiography, and this her autobiography, Vidya's I Am Vidya, is the first autobiography that has been published in India in 2007. Is the first Hijra's autobiography of India. So she shares her experiences of being Hijra and belonging to the Hijra community. She was the first Hijra of India in 2013 to be awarded with Charles Wallace Award, and she has established Panamai Theatre. Revathi in her foreword has stated that Vidya in her foreword has stated that identities are not mere markers. They are known by, they define as well as limit us. They can both confine or release a consciousness. So Vidya actually has endured all humiliations enforced on Hijra by a heteronormative society that segregates and designates a man and women based on anatomy. based on the body and physical features, because we believe that pink is for women, blue is for boy, and the attire that one wears is also uh, considered to be definition of what a man is, what a woman is. I'm sorry for my bad throat. So, for instance, because of her sexuality, she was sacked by her parents and forced to beg on the streets, like a pariah facing physical and psychological abuses. So, her autobiography states her journey from donning a woman's clothes to undergoing excruciating surgery to lose her manhood, from suffering emotional and physical harassment to arriving at her true identity. Proceeding towards my next slide, I have chosen this Indian Hijras, and actually, who is this Indian Hijra? I'll state in this slide. These two pictures are of the Hijras of Kolkata, which I went to have a discussion with. They are from Sangama NGO, and there we had come to know across various traits of Hijra, the Hijra community. So in India, transgender, the Hijras are basically and mainly male to female individuals. So they are among the most disenfranchised groups living in seclusion. They are plagued by the lack of identity consistency, a deficit of fortitude, and overabundance of undesired discreteness and unequal opportunities. They are demonstrated as subset of transgender identity or a community that embraces hybridized gender identities. They primarily regard themselves as third gender that functions outside the enforced gender performance identities to defy established gender and sexuality expectation, which is basically binarism. Hijras are also known as the third gender and the oldest transgender community that extends Judith Butler's claim that gender is a cultural construct. So identity has often led them to suffer the designation of fake women that acts as a catalyst, making them conducive to violence at home and outside, as per the tales of Revathi and Vidya. So there again comes a very important question, a pivotal question from these narratives, that is there a safe space for the transgender community? So after dealing with the introduction part, we will talk about what is the paper about. So in this paper, I exemplify the twofold dimension of the narratives. First, through the repeated performance of the self as a female who is imprisoned in the erroneous body of a male. This highlights the incongruity between body and mind, ensuing passing as a woman and the wrong body concept. That also give a very clear picture of Revathi's and Vidya's performative self. I even analyze space as an imperative tool in ensuing trauma and violence against transgender in the life experience of Revathi and Vidya. So proceeding towards my next slide, performing self in A Revathi and Vidya. So an individual's internal sense of self as male, female, or an identity between and beyond these binaries has been characterized as gender identity. So gender basically explains the physical traits and behaviors that we assign to bodies. For example, man should possess masculine traits and women should possess feminine traits. So gender, according to Butler, is performative, indicating that it is real only to the extent that it is performed. So this this also implies that gender is unfixed and unchangeable characteristics, and gender norms and gendered subjects are formed by the very acts of performing in daily life, as we see in the cases of Revathi and Vidya. Revathi desires to act and do feminine work. She states that I love to sweep and sweep the front yard clean and draw column every morning. It's a kind of rangoli, the colorful, the colorful decoration that we put outside the door of for the celebration, etc. During that moment. And I even help my mother in the kitchen, sweeping, swabbing, and washing vessels. So This illustrates her performative self. She also says that we can state that body is a platform on which numerous performative actions can be conducted to validate the individual's gender identity. So it is about the repeated acts, and transsexual controls their chosen gender identity through performative traits. So it encompasses predominantly feminine behaviors such as female sartorial style, because dress is a very important uh, function in performing. So for passing as a woman, okay. So here Vidya as well as Revathi at in during their early childhood love to apply makeup, wear female clothes, jewelries of their sister to perform their gender in secret because they lacked safe spaces. For instance, Vidya stated that I usually locked myself inside once all of them had gone out and put on girls' clothes. So here the Hijras, and also we have seen in the autobiographies, is a very prime step to embrace and perform. Are you able to hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
yes. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Sorry, because my internet connection was stating to be unstable. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we are able to
So,
hear.
okay. So cross-dressing is the very important and prime step to perform and embrace femininity. So moving towards the next slide, passing as a woman. The, the passing is an act of donning in the opposite gender's attire to induce an unaware crowd that one is inherently a member of that sex. So the word passing refers to how a person acquires the identity of a member of a different group based on ethnicity, gender, nationality, and sexual orientation. So here we'll say that Vidya and Revathi, in their narratives, both exemplify their desire to become a woman from childhood. And Vidya asserts that she felt like a woman inside, and Revathi performed her gender identity by accepting, I am a woman trapped in a male body. So here, most of the time, Revathi has also asserted her in, intense desire to pass as a woman when she says that whatever happens, even if the surgery hurts to death, I will live as a woman, I will die as a woman. So here we see that the urge to pass as a woman is extreme in the Indian Hijras, in the transgender. So the concept of passing is also problematic because society has yet to acknowledge transgender identity. For instance, after sex reassignment surgery, hormonal therapy, or breast implantation, so not all trans are accepted by the society. In fact, Revathi and Vidya passed as a women in the sight of their own, but not in the sight of public. And the instance that happened in the life of Revathi, for instance, because I won't be able to explain the entire thing as the time do not demand. However, the most important thing that I'll try to put on is the thing that she really, how she was physically and sexually abused by in the public and by the police. So she mentions an incident stating that I felt at the policeman's feet. He kicked me with his boots and asked me to take off my clothes right there. I pleaded and wept. He forcibly stripped me. He struck his stick, the cane where I had my operation, and demanded that I stand with my legs apart as women do. He repeatedly stuck at that part, at that operated area with the stick, and said, so can it get into there? Or is it a field that one can't enter? How do you have sex then? Which is a really shameful act. So undeniably, passing leads to violence that acts as a tool for public and private self-validation, questioning who you pass for and why you pass. Moving towards the next slide, traumatic dissociation being in the wrong body. The wrong body concept of Talia Bacha entails an incongruity between gender identification and the sex body in transsexuals, because the wrong body is considered to be a condition in which disparity between body and self is encapsulated, and captivating polarized segregation like body and its emotion, the body and discernment. So Vidya's autobiography, even Revathi, repeatedly illustrates her anxiety of being imprisoned in a male body. From the very beginning, even from the adolescence, when they started growing up, they always felt that why is it like I am a boy with male genitals? Why I can't have the same feelings as boy has? Why I want to be a girl? This traumatic dissociation has always hindered their growth and hindered their growth in the education sector and even in their own personal confidence. So, mainstream society also used derogatory statements like after the surgery happened. Mainstream society also uses derogatory statements like are your breasts real one and call them fake women. That also indicates transphobia and violence. So, before passing and after passing. There were certain traumatic dissociation. However, before passing, they wanted to be what they want to be. They wanted to become a hijra. But after becoming hijra, they already have nothing left. So they chose a hijra community, a group, stay there, and mostly um, feel safe over there. So this is one of the things that hijras always suffers, because trauma somehow or the other happens when a person is unloved, and hijras has always suffered the feeling of unloved. So the wrong body now altered becomes gendered body of women. However, their the violence and trauma yet sustains. Moving towards the next slide, quest for safe spaces. So Judith Butler, in her book Gender Trouble, states gender is an identity tenuously created in time, imposed in an outside space via stylized repetition of actions, rather than a stable identity or center of agency from which diverse acts follows. And this suggests that there exists a knot between gender and space, as both gender and space are social constructions that not only share similar qualities but also support one another. Revathi, to put it another way, space is both formed and voiced via cultural discourse, which includes gender discourse, and that is an embodiment of real world. So Revathi has also stated in her autobiography that she was always in a state of unattachment towards her house and towards her home. Revathi claims that in her autobiography, because of her feminine features, she was hit by her brother, beaten mercilessly by her brother, and physically abused. So even her mother was against her, stating, beat him, break his bones. So for Revathi, both home and outside was not the space, not a safe space. And Revathi stated that home was not the space we loved. So outside, she was repeatedly subject of abuse, either sexual, verbal, and physical. And even when it comes to Vidya, after she left for her, after she wanted to go for sex reassignment surgery, and uh, she was somehow or the other surviving while begging on the streets. She was attacked by goons who mercilessly slapped her in a moving train, and her legs and hands were trembling. Tears were coursing down her cheeks. So they underwent medical procedures for the gender they desire, which created hindrance to having safe space at home and outside, both for Revathi and Vidya. So here I conclude my entire presentation that the unquestionably passing, which is important for the Hijra community, induces violence, which also serves as a tool for public and private self-validation, raising the issue of who you pass for and why you pass. The study also asserts that space, both for Revathi and Vidya, are, for example, home and outside, are not safe. So these are the bibliography which I have incorporated. Thank you.